salty Gulf Coast to the rolling high plains, to the piney woods in the east. All across our dear Texas, folks need good food to eat. Our farmers and ranchers are heroes. They've always made Texas great. Texas agriculture matters. It's the heart of the Lone Star State. Oh, Texas got it all, y'all.
Well, howdy, neighbors. I'm your Texas Agriculture Commissioner, Sid Miller. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Texas Agriculture Matters right here on RFD TV. Now, today, we're going to talk about how farming and ranching broadcasters give a much-needed voice to agriculture. These professionals do so much for the industry, acting as information distributors for agriculture producers across the world. Farming and ranching broadcasters are essential to the agriculture industry. They serve as a trusted source of information, education, and support for farmers, ranchers, and our rural communities. They offer a balanced perspective on a variety of topics such as weather conditions, market prices, agriculture policy, and best practices for our agriculture producers. To give the stories credibility and value, they put in a lot of research and behind-the-scenes work. Even today, there are untapped rural communities with stories to tell. Without having a voice in agriculture, we would not be able to educate the public about the various aspects of agriculture. For instance, challenges faced by farmers and ranchers, the significance of sustainable practices, and the role of agriculture in food production and in our economy. Through their programming, these broadcasters provide a platform for farmers and ranchers to share their stories and are the mouthpiece and megaphones to make our voices heard. Now, let's join Tammy Arnder as she visits with Michelle Martin, the owner of AgMag, to hear why farming and ranching broadcasters play a vital role in agriculture. Agriculture broadcasting is just another way Texas agriculture matters.
All right, welcome into Combine Rep Kickoff. I'm Scott Schilling, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. Thanks for joining us today.
There was a time when your farm report was only available on radio. Dedicated farm broadcasters brought you commodity market prices, and that was about it. But farm broadcasters are everywhere now, like Michelle Martin with AgMag and Ag on Wheels.
Basically pleaded with people to invest in me, and I started off with 4 advertisers and only 24 pages. And now we've grown to 80 and have over about 50 advertisers.
Martin didn't have an agriculture background. She married into it.
Woo! And so after I married a farmer, you know, God gave me the idea for an ag magazine, and there was nothing like that in the valley where I live in the Rio Grande Valley, and then it kind of transpired into a nationwide magazine.
But now she is a force to be reckoned with in ag media and the digital world. She travels to farms all over the Lone Star State to tell a farmer story, and she does it in such a unique way.
But someone from the outside looking in, if I'm in a field being very, monotone talking about a vegetable in the ground, I myself would get bored. So I try to put myself in other people's shoes. However, what you see on my show or social media is 100% me. It is not staged. I am a Texas tornado, as I like to say.
Her demonstrative personality and her love for ag make her content something you can't look away from. But she's quick to say it may be her face you see, but there's a team around her making it all happen.
I think, too, another misconception that people have is that, I'm a one-man band, and I am not. I'm so grateful, especially back home, for the locals that helped me get started and believed in my little dream, like my graphic designer, Alvin Avides, my camera guy, Aaron Trevino. I call him the camera wizard, and even the farmers, everyone, even nationally, who have supported me and follow me. This is not a one-man band show here. This is a group effort, and I think that that's the way that it needs to be in ag.
And the only thing she puts above her love of family is her love for God.
It's definitely been a roller coaster ride, and without God, there's no way I'd be here. When I was pregnant with my son, I was only on issue 3 of my magazine, which we're now going to issue 55. But my mother passed away, and being an only child and no other living family, I had to plan the funeral, do these things. I had complications with my pregnancy, and then here I am trying to run this business. And so it was a lot. And without God as my, foundation, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today.
So Ag Mag and Ag on Wheels gives you a behind-the-scenes look at what farmers and ranchers do, and more importantly, why they do it. And for Michelle, the why for her is very important.
It's important to me because I chose ag, right? I didn't grow up into it. And I chose it because marrying a farmer, I saw how much goes into it. And not only does he farm, but he runs cattle as well and works for a fertilizer company, Helena Fertilizers. And so I just started to learn how much goes into getting your clothes on your body and that food on your plate. And then I started to really see the disconnect between the consumer and the grower. And I wanted to be that person that filled that gap. And in today's day and age too, farming and ranching, ag in general is getting such a bad rap. And I feel like we're losing our voice. And I want to be that vehicle that gives the world of ag their voice back. Because without ag, we have nothing.
I'm Tammy Arender for Texas Agriculture Matters.
Well, thanks, Tammy, for bringing us another episode of Texas Agriculture Matters. Hey, today it's my pleasure to have anchor and reporter at RFD TV, Tammy Arender. Now, she's joining us. She's also one of the executive producers of our show, Texas Agriculture Matters. So thanks for being on the show, Tammy.
I am so excited to be here with you in person, Sid.
It's a little reverse role, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
I don't know if you're aware, but I'm actually a farm girl myself. I grew up on a cotton and soybean farm in Tallulah, Louisiana. That's in the northeast corner. It's actually the last little town you get to before you get to Vicksburg, Mississippi. So our farm was right there kind of on the backwaters of the Mississippi River and the Mississippi Delta. And so I started my career in television in Monroe, Louisiana, and then I've worked all over in Baton Rouge and Little Rock and then Nashville. And Nashville is where I discovered RFD TV. Their news studios were here, and I was working at one of the local affiliates here, and I never did really enjoy covering city council meetings and murders and things like that. Hard news wasn't my deal. I wanted to do stories that matter, right? And so one of our producers had quit to go to work for RFD TV, and I said, "What is that?" And she said, "It's the Agriculture Network." So I basically pestered Patrick Gotch, the owner of our network, until he gave me a job because I said, "You made this network for me." So that's kind of my journey.
Well, what first inspired you to take a career in farm and ranch broadcasting? What gave you the spark?
It was the passion I had for the industry. Now, as I mentioned, I grew up on a farm, but when you're a young girl with big dreams, I wanted to get away from little Tallulah, Louisiana. And as my mama used to say, she used to pray that I'd get paid for talking. And so I do. But like I say, I took a path down regular news and secular news. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized what agriculture meant. Okay, I knew that it impacted the entire world and that we needed to share that story, that there was misinformation out there, and I wanted to be part of that voice. And so that's, like I say, when I discovered RFD and that it was a voice for all things ag and rural America, that was that light bulb moment for me.
Well, things change so fast in our world. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and develops in agriculture? Because it's just constantly changing back and forth. How do you stay on top of the news and know what to report?
It is constantly changing. Now, of course, we have a network of people that we depend on, communications directors like Maddie, who works for you at Texas Agriculture Department. We have relationships with every ag department in our country. We also have relationships with farm bureaus and DTN, Brownfield Ag News. But here's the most important thing, Commissioner. The majority of our staff in our newsroom is like myself. We have some connection to agriculture, so we can actually get information from boots on the ground. We have somebody working on our staff who was raised on a farm in California, somebody from Kansas, somebody from Georgia. So we have a boots on the ground network as well that we can actually call farmers and say, hey, what's going on? We follow them on social media to make sure we're getting real-time information that's up to date and accurate.
Hey, folks, we're going to have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with Tammy Arnder right here on Texas Agriculture Matters. Stay tuned. It gets better. Well, welcome back to Texas Agriculture Matters. Hey, I'm your host, Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller. Now, let's continue our talk with Tammy Arnder. Tammy, what do you think are the most pressing matters and issues that farmers and ranchers are facing right now?
Sid, I think that the most important thing right now is getting that farm bill passed, and that's because there's so many uncertainties, so many things out of a farmer and rancher's control, that we need those safety nets. We need that crop insurance. So we need to get Congress to get on board and get this passed sooner rather than later. The other thing is we need to do a better job of recruiting that next generation. You understand that the average age of a farmer or rancher right now is 58. So we've got to be able to share the opportunities that are in agriculture and let that younger generation know. FFA does a great job, but I was raised in a farming community. We didn't have FFA at my school. So we've got to be able to tell others in that next generation that this is a great career and that it's a career that not only can benefit you financially, but it can also impact the world. And who doesn't want a job that can do that?
So, farmers and ranchers, a lot of them are kind of introverts. We don't want to be in the limelight. We don't want to be on TV. So how do you approach some of these farmers and ranchers when you get ready to interview them? It's a little different breed than the average person.
It is so interesting you bring that up. I find myself begging at times because you're right. They don't want to be in front of the camera. But I normally just tell them how important it is to share their story because everybody's got a story. And usually their first reaction is, I don't have a story, but you do. If you are farming or ranching for a living and you are providing food, fuel, and fiber for our world, you have a story. And I always tell them, too, that there's no need to be nervous, because I'm not going to ask you any questions you don't know, because I'm going to ask you about you and what you do every single day. That usually puts them kind of on a comfort level, and once we get to talking, they forget the camera's there.
Agriculture, we're moving from the age of mechanization into the age of technology. So broadcasting's doing the same thing. So how are we moving? Tell us about your industry and how you're moving into the digital world.
That has been such a transition for me because I tell everybody, I started in this business when editors were the size of dorm room refrigerators, and now you edit on this, right? And so it has been such a learning curve for me, but I think it's a good thing for farm broadcasters because, I remember when my dad used to, in the morning and at noon, he would have to get off the tractor, come into the house and either turn the radio on or the local television station on just to get the price of corn, soybeans, and cotton. Now you can get it in the palm of your hand. But that also means that we have the ability now to share that story with everyone. You don't have to work at an RFD TV or a Texas radio network to tell the story of agriculture because technology has brought us into the space where get out there, take your pictures, record your voice, do a podcast if you want to, but let's share that story and that message.
I've always wanted to ask you this question, and it's always our last question. But Tammy, why do you think Texas agriculture matters?
Sid, until I started doing the show, Texas Agriculture Matters, I didn't know why, and I do now. Number one, Texas is the largest, has the most farms in the country. And number two, their reach. As far as food, fuel, and fiber, it's also genetics and research. It impacts the entire world. So not only are we keeping, food on the table and clothes on our backs, but we are moving, Texas is moving agriculture forward in a way that a lot of other states don't. And I see that, I've learned that, and I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, Tammy, thank you so much for joining us today here on Texas Agriculture Matters. It's been very interesting. Now, folks, hey, let's take a look at another great Go Texan partner. For over 20 years, the Texas Department of Agriculture's Go Texan program has helped promote products made right here in the Lone Star State. From boots to salsa, Go Texan members make the best stuff on earth. Now, friends, let's take a look at one of these fine Texas businesses and why they are Go Texan proud.
Go Texan every day.
G3 Longhorn Ranch is a working longhorn ranch where we do longhorn tours, we raise longhorn beef, and we also raise breeding longhorns here. We started G3 Ranch back in 2015 with 2 longhorns as pets, and the love for the breed just kind of took off. And from there, we now have about 130 head. The longhorn breed is definitely a breed like no other cattle breed. They are very interactive with people. People love to come look at them. People love to come intertwine with them. My cows see people and they want to come be their friend. We've actually had contractors on the ranch who are like, I've never seen cows that want to come to people like your cows do. So they're like kind of big pets out in the pasture. We give longhorn tours because we want people to get educated about longhorns. Some longhorns from the past have a really bad reputation about, not being great cattle or tearing up fences or being wild, and we really want to make sure people understand that that is not the longhorns of today. The breeders of longhorns today take a lot of care in genetics and making sure we're breeding solid cows. So people like to come see the longhorns, get to feed them, pet them, take pictures because they're pretty in pictures. Not 2 longhorns ever look the same, but also it's an educational purpose so people can actually learn like longhorns are actually great solid cattle all the way around. So all of our longhorn beef is all from registered longhorns on our ranch. They're all grass-fed with alfalfa and Sudan hay as well for protein and everything. And they free range, so they literally get to live a happy life on several acres, like they're not pinned or anything, because stress actually really can change the taste of your meat. So they get to live a luxurious life in the pasture, and then that's where your beef comes from. We decided to name our place G3. Our last name is Gentry, and so there was the G. The 3 is actually both of our lucky numbers. We were married on the 3rd, our daughter was born on the 3rd, and it just kind of goes with it. So we also, on our website, it's God, Gentry, Grace. So it's just kind of one of those things. It went with it and we've just taken it and rolled. We decided to become a member of Go Texan mostly because of the beef side. We wanted people to know that, our beef is Texas beef. There's a huge misunderstanding about where beef comes from, and so we own Texas Longhorns. We're a Texas ranch. We sell beef that's from Texas in Texas. So when we decided to do all of that and look into it, Go Texan, we really liked what they stood for. We liked that they were all American-based, Texas-based, so we decided that was something we wanted to be a part of. I'm Brittany Gentry, and G3 Ranch is Go Texan proud.
Go Texan every day.
Well, neighbors, thank you for joining us for another episode of Texas Agriculture Matters. Hey, I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about farming and ranching broadcasting, as well as the important work they do for the agriculture industry. Now, farming and ranching broadcasters connect our communities with agriculture, provide advocacy and support to agriculture producers, and keep us all informed when we need to know it the most. As always, I'd like to close by saying thanks to every farmer and rancher who works from sunrise to sunset to help keep our rural heritage alive. And finally, here's today's cowboy logic. You know, a rattlesnake won't bite unless you're poking around somewhere you shouldn't be. Think about it. Thank you. God bless. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters.
From the salty Gulf Coast to the rolling high plains, to the piney woods in the east, all across our dear Texas, folks need good food to eat. Our farmers and ranchers are heroes. They've always made Texas great. Texas agriculture matters. It's the heart of the Lone Star State. Oh, Texas got it all, y'all.